Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers. Now, this lesson is going to be primarily based around division. And there is so much division in this country, in America. So I'm going to get some precepts and Adawan Ratazal, you're edified. Luke 12:51. Suppose ye that I'm come to give peace on earth, I tell you nay, but rather division. And that's clearly what the Lord is doing here in America. Like, this country is so divided. And the recent example of that was the Super Bowl halftime show. Because Bad Bunny, who I believe is Puerto Rican, he he was the one who did the halftime show performance. And in typical fashion, you have a bunch of Edomites that were like, oh, he sang the song in Spanish, couldn't understand a word he said. He should have spoken English. English is the official language of America. Just being the typical, just racist, basic, uncultured, saltless selves. Because that's how Esau is. Esau thinks that you should do everything his way. And if you don't do things his way, then he throws a tantrum. He throws a hissy fit like a child. And then you have other people who don't speak Spanish, that were saying like, hey, they didn't even care that they couldn't understand what he was saying. They preferred Bad Bunny over Kid Rock, because in one of Kid Rock's songs, he was talking about how he likes underage girls. Just typical Edomite pedophilic behavior, So this country is very much divided. You have these Nazi, freaking white supremacist Edomites who think that everything should just be, so-called white. And then you have everybody else who's like, hey, we appreciate the other people in this country and, the different cultures and people's different, ways of living, So there's a major divide here. It's Esau and, all the coons from all these different races that ride with Esau because they still are begging for their slave master and their oppressor's approval. And then you have the people on the opposite side who actually embrace other cultures and hate to see what Esau is doing in this country, especially in regards to ICE and all the chaos that's been caused off of that. And all of this chaos and all of this division, it's going to lead to civil wars and race wars in this country. Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Jumping down to verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. And we are in a time of war. We are in a time of civil war, race wars, and ultimately world war. And at the end of this world war, America is going to be nuked off the face of the earth, completely annihilated. And rightfully so, because this is the most wicked place on the planet. This place is worthy of that nuclear fire. And these Edomites, these so-called self-proclaimed white people, they deserve to get destroyed. And then in the kingdom of heaven, they're going to get put in chains. They're going to be slaves for 1,000 years and experience the most hardcore, brutal slavery that any nation has ever experienced. And then by the hand of his people Israel, the Lord is going to round up these Edomites, all of them, the men, the women, and the children, and he's going to wipe them off the face of the earth. You see, these Edomites, they've been lied to their whole existence, being told that they're better than everybody, that, what's white is right, and all of that BS. And that's why when they see anyone that doesn't look like them, in at the forefront of something, they throw a tantrum. They don't like it. Because when you've been told that you're better than everybody and everyone else is beneath you and all of that, you really start to think that way. And that's how Edomites think. And that's why they hate when someone who's not an Edomite gets picked to do the halftime show, or somebody else is the star, a so-called black person or so-called Latino or Hispanic or Native American or a so-called Asian person or a so-called Muslim person is at the forefront of movies and TV shows. Edomites hate that. They think that they deserve to be the face of everything. And when they're not, they get very upset and they show their true colors. They show their devil horns. They show just how disgusting and racist and hateful they are. And more people are waking up to that and are no longer surprised when these Edomites act like that. But Esau's going to get to the point, and the Lord is going to allow him to get to the point where he's just going to start like physically, going after people on a larger scale. Like you have, little racial incidents happening here and there, but it's going to be like nationwide. The whole country is going to just explode into civil and race wars. That's the direction that the Lord has this country going in. And anybody with eyes to see can see that that's where this is going. Because Esau is sitting here crying about they fear that they're being replaced. That's why they want to get all the brown people out of this country and bring in more white, so-called white people, because, they're scared. But what they don't understand is, like it says in Job 14:5, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So Esau is already on a time limit. His time is almost up, and the Lord's about to remove this devil out of power. So he could bring in all the Edomites from all these different countries that he wants to. They're just going to be fuel for that nuclear fire. There is no making America white. America was never white. America was always an incredibly diverse place. Now, you do have parts of the country that are more, full of Edomites than other places, but nonetheless, America is one of the most diverse places in the world. All different nations of people are here. All different cultures, all different backgrounds are here. But Esau hates that because he's starting to see less and less people that look like him. And it terrifies him. Because now he's surrounded by people, the very same people that he demonizes on a daily basis. These brown-skinned people that he's afraid are gonna, take his woman. His woman don't even want him like that, But he's afraid that the brown men are gonna take his women and they're gonna take over the country. And don't nobody want to take over America. America's a shithole. Even Trump has said that this place is a shithole. He's called it a hellhole and all of that. So it's like, even Trump doesn't like America. And like so many people have said, this whole ICE thing, was never about immigration. It was just about Edomites showing their hatefulness and their racism toward anybody that doesn't look like them. That's what it's always been about. That's how Esau has always moved. And that in itself is division. You know, these Edomites, so called self proclaimed white people, against everybody that doesn't look like them. And that's why you have so many Edomites out here cheering on what ICE is doing to people. Well, I mean, they were cheering it on up until Renee Good and Alex Peretti, those two white people, those two so called white people, those two Edomites got smoked by ICE agents. Then all of a sudden, Edomites got quiet because they realized that that whole, you know, being so called white, that's not enough to protect them anymore. These Edomites always thought they were safe under the guise of being white. So anything bad that happened, they always thought they were going to be shielded from it. But now, like the elder Malcolm loves to say, the curses that were upon us, the Israelites are now being brought upon these Edomites. Now they're beginning to suffer, and they don't like it. But like it says in Isaiah 48 and 22, there is no peace, saith the Lord Yahweh, unto the wicked. These Edomites, they're going to continue to cry because the Lord is going to continue to bring judgment upon them and tear their lives apart and turn their world upside down and inside out, because that's what they did to everybody else. And these Edomites had no problem doing it to everybody else. They only have a problem when they start getting a taste of their own medicine. That's when they don't like it. But that's too bad, because what the Israelites, primarily the so called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, have gone through at the hands of these Edomites, you know, these Edomites, they're going to experience that and a whole lot worse. And they know it, they can feel it, and it scares them. And that's why, you know, they're throwing everything and anything at the wall and hoping that it sticks, because they want to stay in power. They think that they can escape the judgment that the Lord has in store for them, and they can't. And because all the signs are showing that they can't, they're getting more riled up, they're getting more angry, they're getting more violent, and war is definitely going to break out. And ultimately, the Heavenly Father is a man of war. Exodus 15 and 3. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. And that's right, the Lord is a man of war. Civil wars, race wars, world war. You know, that's the Lord's thing. And America is about to be the biggest battlefield, the biggest war zone. You know, also in regards to Slovakia, also in regards to division, you know, the Olympics, it's either still happening or it already happened. I don't watch it, so I don't really keep up to date with that stuff. But I saw on TikTok how there were some U.S. Olympians, you know, who were asked, you know, about, you know, how they feel in regards to, you know, representing America given everything that's happening here. And they were like, listen, they said they love their country and they love the American people, but, you know, they're against the administration, so to speak. They didn't necessarily say that word for word, but, you know, you could read between the lines. That's what they were saying, you know, that they were not okay with what was happening, you know, like with what ICE is doing and all of that. They were not okay with that. And then in the comment section, you had, in typical fashion, You had these Edomites saying, oh, how dare they speak down about America? They're supposed to be representing America. How dare they, you know, get on camera and disrespect this country? And so many people on the other side of that were like, they didn't say they hate America. They said they hate this administration. They didn't even say they hate it, but like that's the whole point. Like nobody likes this administration. This administration is wicked. It's full of a bunch of racists and a bunch of pedophiles. you know, like the very same country that these Edomites claim that they love so much is being destroyed by disgusting people, aka other Edomites, particularly the ones up in that White House. But like we've said before, Esau doesn't care about the wickedness that's going on as long as he's benefiting from it and not being hurt by it. The Epstein files coming out, letting it be known that these high level elites, these higher up, in particular Edomites, because I'm sure that there's some heathens in there and some Israelites in there, some wicked 2/3 in there as well in those files. But for the most part, it's Edomites. It's so-called Jayish people, and it's these other Edomites up in those files committing child sacrifice and murder and rapes and all sorts of disgusting things. And that's the world. That's the kind of world that Esau likes to live in. Just a lawless, disgusting world. And that's why the Lord is going to remove these devils, because the only thing these devils know how to do is everything that's wicked. Everything that's wicked and unholy and ungodly and just destroys people. That's all Esau knows how to do. And Esau hates the fact that he's getting exposed and he's getting called out for it. Especially these so-called white men. These so-called white men, they really hate that, And then, you have some of these so-called white women that are still riding with these so-called white men because, they think the same way. And that's why we say, as a whole, as an entire nation, these Edomites, these so-called self-proclaimed white people, they have to be erased. And they're going to be erased. The Lord is going to remove them. Because they're the problem. They've always been the problem. And as long as they exist, they will remain the problem. And everybody is seeing that. Even these other Edomite nations. Like, look at Canada, the UK, Italy, Germany, France. Those are Edomite-controlled countries, and even they're backing off from dealing with America because they're like, this is too much. You know, they're like, yo, y'all are doing way too much. You Edomites in America are doing way too much, and they don't want to be a part of that. That doesn't necessarily cleanse them of the wickedness that they've done these Edomites have done up in Canada and everywhere else in the world. Like they're still gonna catch their judgment too. They're not exempt. But here in America, this is where it's the worst. This is where you're seeing Esau like at his finest. The mask is coming off and those devil horns are coming out. And it's causing so much division. And like I said, that division is going to lead to violence. It's going to lead to war. And that's exactly how the Lord is setting it up. And those of us of the Hope Elect, we love to see it, man. We love to see it. We pray that the Lord continues to speed up the times for the elect's sake. Because we want up out of here, man. We want this place destroyed. We want these wicked 2/3 destroyed. We want these heathens destroyed. And we definitely want these Edomites destroyed. So for all you sincere brothers and sisters, stay circumspect out here. Because war is definitely on the way. Like so many people say, America is a powder keg and it's about to go off. All hell is about to break loose in this place. Oh, Salakia, Salakia, Salakia. Luke 21:36. Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And that's what those of us of the hopeful elect have been doing, and that's what we must continue to do, is watch. Watch these prophecies come to pass. Watch, these wicked kingdoms continue to fall apart. Watch the division continue to happen. Watch the race wars and the civil wars start to take place. Watch the famines happen. Watch the eternal darkness via power outages happen. The earthquakes and the fires and the storms and tempests. Watch all the plagues and pestilences and overall just the wrath of the Lord just consume America and, the rest of the world, basically. And these are the things that we're supposed to be hoping that the Lord accounts us worthy to escape. Because the goal for those of us of the hopeful elect is to endure unto the end and be saved. And Adawan Ratazah, that is our lot. Adawan Ratazah, that is how our story ends. At least this chapter of it. So for all you sincere brothers and sisters, just stay locked in. Because things are about to get so much crazier out here. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, the water Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And shalom to all the sincere believers. Hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Until next time, shalom.